Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we're discussing the loyalty of Horus Lupercal towards his brothers, even after his fall as Warmaster. A spoiler warning to begin, as the events we're discussing today are from the Horus Heresy novel Vengeful Spirit by author Graham McNeill. As always, I really recommend you read the stories for yourself first, without spoilers, as that's the best way to enjoy the lore for yourself. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. Okay, so for all the eternal warmth and love for Sanguinius, it truly was Horus Lupercal who unified the Primarchs like no other. Sure, he was the first amongst equals, the paragon of what the Primarchs aspired to be, but it was really his charisma, his nature that fostered the comradeship between them, that made the Primarchs a brotherhood, a family. Was he perfect? No. The first time a brother was found, he reacted with jealousy, and there were times his brash nature and confidence rubbed his brothers the wrong way. But he never claimed to be perfect. And he learnt, and he grew, and most importantly, he cared. Horus Lupercal genuinely cared for all his brothers, even those few he had trickier relationships with. And he didn't care for them because they were Primarchs. He didn't care for them because they were leaders of legions. He cared for them because they were his brothers. Whatever flaws Horus Lupercal might have possessed, whatever greatness he might have had, it was his love for his brothers that made him the brightest star. That made the heresy so tragic, and why it cut the Primarchs so deeply. And it was a care Horus possessed even after his fall upon Davin. The best example being within the novel Vengeful Spirit by author Graham McNeill. Now, Vengeful Spirit takes place well into the heresy, but prior to Horus's entry into the warp and meeting the Pantheon, where he would truly be consumed by their power. In fact, Vengeful Spirit tells that story of Horus's journey to Malek and his uncovering of the portal. And so while, yes, of course, the Warmaster is corrupted by chaos upon Davin, at this point in the heresy, he hasn't been consumed by them. And it begins with Horus having called his brothers Mortarion and Fulgrim to the world of Dwell, a world renowned for its expansive library of knowledge and record keeping, a world conquered by Guilliman during the Great Crusade. And Horus has come here because he has become aware of problems within his memory concerning the compliance of Malek, seeking answers in the expansive records of Dwell, knowing that he, Fulgrim, Lionel Johnson and Jagatai Khan all accompanied the Emperor on the compliance of Malek, yet its compliance is recorded as a fairly peaceful one. And worse still, that he can't actually remember any of the details of it himself, which upon questioning neither can Fulgrim. And so it all raises the prospect of the Emperor not only altering the four Primarchs' memories, but the memories of the four entire legions as well, revealing the insane amount of power the Emperor has. But it's as the three Primarchs' conversation on the matter concludes, with the need for a journey to be taken to Malek realised, the three Primarchs come under fire from three arriving Fire Raptor gunships. Horus knew the capabilities of the Fire Raptor intimately, its range, weapon mounts, rate of fire. Ulanor had shown just how savage a gunship it was. It had been integral to the victory. I should be dead. He breathed in sulphur-hot fumes, physaline, scorched metal, burning flesh. Horus rolled onto his side, hearing damaged. A deadening numbness filled his head with dull echoes. The rasping of a saw, thuddening detonations. He didn't need his visor display to know how badly he'd been hurt. His armour was battered, but unbreached, though his skin was burned to the bone. His scalp scorched bare, temperature warnings, oxygen deficiencies, organ damage. He shut them out with a thought. Clarity. He needed clarity. Shadrach Medusan. Autonomic reactions took over. Time and motion became gel-like as Horus pushed himself to his feet. He swayed, concussive shockwaves making him dizzy. How bad did it have to get for a Primarch to feel dizzy? Flames surrounded him. The dome of revivification was gone, its structure torn away in scything arcs of explosive mass-reactive bolts. Kairos cylinders lay in shattered ruin. Wet leather bodies smoked like trail rations. Horus saw Noctua and Aximand pinned beneath a fallen structural member. The plates of their armour were buckled and split, their helms splintered into pieces. No sign of the Widowmaker or Ezekiel. Mortarion, he shouted. Fulgrim. His brothers. Where were his brothers? Now you can throw a lot of accusations and criticisms at the fallen Warmaster, many of which would be valid, but you absolutely cannot fault him for his instinct here. Blooded, battered, charred to the very bone, yet his first and only instinct is to call out for his brothers. Mortarion, Fulgrim. He could run, or immediately seek revenge. Maybe care only for himself, as you might expect the traitor Warmaster to do. Yet there's none of that here. None. He cares only for Mortarion, for Fulgrim. Again, his faults lay it clear. My brothers. Where were his brothers? The traitor Primarchs had a lot of petty and varied excuses for betraying their father. But don't overlook the fact that it all transpired in large part because of their love for Horus Lupercal. And this instinctive reaction from him, from even the corrupted Warmaster, shows why they felt the way about him they did. A figure rose from the centre of the dome, painfully bright, too bright, giving off a radiance that set a twist of nausea through his gut. Sinuous, winged, many-armed, beautiful, so very beautiful. Even bleeding sick light from fractures in his essence, he rose like a snow-maned phoenix, rising from the ashes of its immortal rebirth. Horus saw sinews like hawsers in Fulgrim's neck. His black, murderer's eyes now filled with light that was not light. A howling fire raptor swung around, the gimbals of its waist cannons swivelling to track the Phoenician. Before it could fire, the rear wings peeled back from its body, like the wings of a dragonfly plucked by a spiteful child. Its tail section crumpled, buckling inwards under invisible force. Fulgrim roared and brought his hands together. The gunship imploded, crushed to a mangled ball of twisted flesh and metal. Compressed ammunition detonated, and the flaming wreckage dropped like stone. Despite the flames, Horus felt the icy wind of warpcraft fill the dome. He'd known his brother's transformation had empowered him enormously, but this was staggering. He saw movement in the wreckage beneath the Phoenician. Mortarion's Barbaran plate was black as char, his pallid face seared the same colour. He leaked blood like a pierced bladder. Ezekiel and Aximand appeared at their Primarch's side. The first captain's face was a mask of crimson. His topknot burned down to the skull. Strands of it hung over his face, making him look like a victim of a wasting disease. Aximand was shouting, dragging him, but all Horus heard were explosions. The cloying torpor of near death fell from him. Noise and fury returned as his senses caught up with the world. The two remaining fire raptors were circling, methodically and systematically destroying the dome. Horus saw interlocking trails of high-caliber shells streaking from the prow of the Legion's fire raptors. Streams of fire raced downward as the gunship strafed in concert around the dome's circumference. Nothing could live through so thorough and savage an attack. I should be dead. He shook off Aximon's grip and barged through the blazing wreckage of the dome towards Mortarion, immense in his custom Martian plate. Now for all Fulgrim's ascended power here, his demonic form not only enabling him to survive, but take out one of the assaulting gunships, can we just take a minute to appreciate what a tank Mortarion is? Crushed beneath the centre of the wreckage and all the devastation, with none of Fulgrim's ascended ability, his armour and face literally charred black, pooling blood everywhere. And still, he's pulling himself out of the wreckage, just refusing to die. I mean, this is why I love Mortarion. He's just an absolute tank, denying death through sheer spite here. You just can't put him down. He's just going to keep on coming at you, no matter what. And this was the Primarch the Emperor made. Not the slave to Nurgle he would become, but the Primarch Mortarion was made to be. Defiant and unstoppable. And again here, that concern Horus has, caring only for his brother's safety, shrugging his sons aside and waging through the fire to reach Mortarion. Still, despite it all, a true Warmaster. And the gunships would unleash more fire, with Fulgrim desperately throwing up a force barrier to deflect what he could. But still the shots would rain in, with 6 ripping into his body, showering the still recovering Mortarion in demonic blood. And we're told how Horus let out a cry of alarm, as if he'd been struck himself at the sight of it. Such is his concern for his brothers, even an ascended demonic Fulgrim. And it's here, as the Phoenician desperately calls to Horus for aid, Mortarion rises from the wreckage, giving us one of his greatest moments ever. Mortarion waded through the wreckage, as unbroken as ever, the black blade of silence unlimbered and trailing a burning length of chain. He roared something in the heathen tongue of his homeworld as he ran towards the edge of the dome. The Death Lord hurled silence like an axeman. The great Reaper blade spun and hammered into the heraldic fist upon the nearest fire raptor. Heels braced in the shattered dome, Mortarion hauled on the chain attached to Silence's heel. The gunship lurched in the air, but the Death Lord wasn't done with it. Its Avenger's cannon flensed Mortarion, driving him back. Plates sheared from him, blood arced in pressurized sprays, flesh melted in the fury of high-powered mass reactives. And still, Mortarion pulled on the chain, pulling the screaming gunship closer. "I've hooked him," yelled Mortarion. "Now finish it." The pilots fought to escape his grip. The Fire Raptor's engine shrieked in power, but hand over hand, the downed Primarch reeled the gunship in like a belligerent angler. Horus appeared at Mortarion's side, running. Even in his towering armour, he was running, jumping. He vaulted on to the shattered remains of a Cairo capsule and launched himself through the air. Hooked by the Death Lord, the gunship was powerless to evade. Horus landed on its prow and knelt to grip the haft of Silence as the gunship lurched with the impact of his landing. He saw the pilots' faces and drank in their terror. Horus never normally gave any thought to the men he killed. They were soldiers doing a job, misguided and fighting for a lie, but simply soldiers doing what they were ordered to do. But these men had hurt him. They'd tried to murder him and his brothers. They'd laid in wait for an opportunity to behead their enemy. That he'd been foolish enough to believe Shadrach Medusan would only have one plan in place inflamed Horus's humours as much as the attempt itself. He lifted his right arm, and Worldbreaker's killing head caught the firelight. The mace swung and demolished the pilot's compartment. Oh man, what a beast Mortarion is. What a beast. Not only hooking a flying gunship and pulling it in, but continuing to do so even with the gunship literally pouring its fire into him, ripping his body and armour to pieces. And again, this isn't even an ascended Mortarion. This was the Primarch he was made to be. What a tank. You ever hear someone dismiss Mortarion as a Primarch, you tell them to read Vengeful Spirit. And this moment in particular. What a legend this guy is. Yelling for Horus to take the ship out as he does so. And Horus does, filled with fury, anger, at the thought of someone trying to hurt him, and more importantly his brothers, giving in to that primal emotion as he demolishes the fighter. But it's his reaction as he lands back on the ground that's the more important one for today. As he doesn't survey the scene, he doesn't bark out orders or issue instruction. He simply drops his weapons and runs immediately to Mortarion, who is laying crumpled upon the floor, with the Warmaster kneeling and simply cradling his brother's blood-soaked and ruined body to him. "My brother," wept Horus. "What have they done to you?" What a scene this is. So easy to forget that this is the corrupted Horus here, already having fallen to the manipulations of chaos. But still, that spark of the man he was within, the old Horus Lupercal, not truly lost. The Primarch who cared for his brothers. Yes, we've seen the stories of the traitor Warmaster lamenting the Primarchs he ended up with. A Primarch who betrayed Sanguinius out of jealousy. And a Warmaster who would go on to become consumed by the ruinous powers. However, this is a moment of that Horus still within, still savable. A brother filled with concern and care over anything else. A Primarch whose first instinct was to search for his brothers, who cried in alarm when he saw Fulgrim taking grievous blows. Who dropped his weapons and raced to Mortarion, and cradled him in his arms with care. No different to, say, the Sanguinius we would later see at the Siege of Terra, who raced from the walls to save his brother Jagatai. The sign of that bond that existed at the core of the Primarchs. A bond that was fostered, exemplified, by Horus Lupercal. And as always everyone, what do you think? Is this the perfect sign of the Warmaster that was lost? Is it a sign of why Horus was able to take fully half of the Primarchs with him? Are you surprised to see such care and devotion from him post-Davin, when he was already on the road to corruption? Or is it actually not a surprise that the care for his brothers would be the last piece of humanity taken from him? Do you think Horus could have still been saved even here? And was maybe his care for his fellow Primarchs the key? And does Mortarion deserve to get more respect? As always everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments below. A huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.